One of the great mysteries surrounding the US-Iran war is why the economic toll from the months-long assault on Tehran has not compelled that country to make peace. Iranian officials estimated in April that US and Israeli strikes had caused $270 billion worth of damage to Iranian infrastructure. Iran had to borrow heavily from the central bank to keep fighting. Inflation is expected to rise, and it was already at more than 40% last year. Ordinary Iranians are undoubtedly suffering. How has the country then not been brought to surrender by now? Part of the reason is that nations are not moved by economics alone. Nationalism, dignity, pride all play their part. But it is also worth noting that Iran's economy, as strained as it has been by decades of sanctions and now the war, has nonetheless been surprisingly resilient. For all the perceptions of Iran as an economic basket case, for all the real pain inflicted, it is also true that Iran is one of the region's more diversified, functioning industrial economies. Iran borders 7 countries and can trade over land. It also has several ports, some of which have been operational even during the war. Iran exports more than just oil. Protectionist policies and entrepreneurship have fostered booming industries such as steel, petrochemicals, iron, and food products. Iran has adapted to international sanctions by producing more of what it needs at home, including cars, pharmaceuticals.
These are the moments that went viral that convinced the Democrats to not be involved with Hassan Piker. Number 10.
I do not have you for the upstairs list.
Okay.
Can I see your ticket type?
Oh, I'm staff.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're
so we can't
escorted?
go upstairs.
So they're not on the list for upstairs?
I do not. But do you have this for there? I can also just check. Chat.
Well, so I thought maybe there's upstairs, no? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
But,
Number
fraud
9.
is not coming from individuals, it's coming from providers. They're not tackling providers. They're not actually going after like false billing. They are trying to cut recipients, okay? It is not happening at the point of recipients. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott.
Number 8.
More times than every single one of you pasty little bitches in my chat, okay? Let's be real for a second, okay, Mr. Alabama? I've been called a load more than you. Why? Because I'm extremely online, okay? So shut the up. Stop crying about this term, okay? Recognize that the person who's calling you a is literally powerless, okay? Sorry, it's just the truth. A person calling you a is powerless. They're doing it as someone who's been historically oppressed, blowing off steam, okay? You can say that that's infantilizing or whatever, but that's truly the reality.
Are we censoring the word cracker?
Yeah. Number
Your
7.
understanding of white supremacy is so juvenile, it's infuriating. It's because I am a white supremacist. I'm moving to the white supremacist town, okay? That's why. I'm a white supremacist. I'm white, okay? I'm white. I'm a white man. I'm a cisgender, heterosexual white man. You got me. You caught me. Okay? You caught me because I want these white enclaves to survive and exist so we can have sundown towns and finally restore the white caliphate. You fucking got me, dude. It starts with the implicit biases. It starts with the blind spots. Despite the fucking tens of thousands of hours poured over critically examining white supremacy and how it manifests in every orifice of American society, you, Chatter, you caught me! It was actually my privileged blind spot that you identified, and now the mask is slipping. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay. I can even crack jokes at the expense of a bunch of inbred white douchebags that decided to fucking try and build a failed white supremacist enclave in the middle of fucking nowhere where they're in self-exile without a bunch of chatters saying that I'm actually blinded by white supremacist values. How can I be okay? I hate all of you. I hate the woke. I hate woke. I hate the left. I hate the woke.
Number
You gotta
6.
get some workouts in, man. You eat more than Austin Peas. Dude, I'm literally... all right, first of all, dude, never do this, okay? Never do this. Just never do that, okay? Fucking die if you're gonna do that, okay? That's number 1. Ridiculous. What a fucking way to start the day, boys. What a way to start the fucking day. Who the fuck do you think you are, bitch? Suck my fucking cock. Okay, perish.
Number 5.
Successfully, we stopped Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine. Or maybe that was never gonna fucking happen. Like I said, it was never gonna fucking happen. I've never seen a group of individuals that will just like relentlessly act like they won a fucking argument, dude.
That's crazy about the. I know he's like pro, like he's not pro Ukraine, but he doesn't care about what happened to Ukraine. Over. Okay, yeah. The thing about this Hassan Piker guy is kind of like he has some extreme views. Some extreme views, yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, but I guess what else do I want to talk about to him about maybe the statement of him saying pig dog. I want to like explore this because I heard people talking pig. Because he said it in the past and nobody ever brings the term pig dog. Is literally in English translation the German Schweinehund hound, which is a real German expression most famous in the phase during the inner Schweinehund. The inner pig dog is a use. It was a used direct hostile insult in English language media, largely a Hollywood cliche rather than a distinct Nazi catchphrase. Okay, so it was like mostly a German word that they used in the 19th century. It wasn't a direct. Okay, So I guess he's not guilty of that. I was seeing, because I've seen people bring up this conversation of fucking swine. Oh, sorry, of this swine dog thing. I guess it's a known, like a German slur kind of thing. Yeah. Hey, let me keep watching this.
It's like, it doesn't matter. They'll be like, tomorrow, there's a war tomorrow, there's a war tomorrow, there's a war tomorrow, there's a war tomorrow. And the tomorrow never comes. And when there's no war tomorrow, they're like, you're lying, you're fucking lying. Dude, it's gonna happen. What do you mean? How could you say this? NATO is the reason why it's fucking happening. NATO is the reason why they're doing it. And then Sam Sachs, Putin is a suicidal maniac who wants war, but stop because the US says, no, don't. I love that, dude. I love that. No, he is like this incredibly violent, bloodthirsty demon who wanted to destroy, wipe out Ukraine, and he was gonna wipe out the rest of Europe. But he stopped because America said, no, no, no. That's how. That's why. And also, everyone that said Vladimir Putin is never going to invade Ukraine because a sustained campaign of invasion would be completely impossible for there's no economic interest there. It would be virtually impossible for them to have a fucking sustained ground invasion in Ukraine. That would be psychotic, even if the Western forces did not fucking actually help out. You guys are literally QAnon. I'm sorry, Westone Caleb, you are literally a liberal QAnon Andy, okay? You are doing the exact same copium that motherfucking QAnon people do, okay? Libanon, all the way, dude, Blue Anon. It's wild. They literally were just like, dude, they're gonna seize the treasure trove of data at the heart of Kiev, and actually, like, right now, my sources are telling me Vladimir Putin has literally got a sniper rifle trained on every like Ukrainian leader, and he's waiting for the execution codes. Like, and then you kept saying that for months, and now that it's not happening, and I kept saying that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. What did everybody say? What the fuck did everybody say when I kept saying that's not gonna happen? You're crazy. They kept saying you're fucking in the pocket of Vladimir Putin. You're so fucking wrong. It's definitely gonna happen. It's happening already. You really are the levels of Rush Limbaugh. But I was right. I was 100%.
Ukraine launching one of its biggest aerial attacks against Russia since the war began. Have you heard about this?
Oh,
Stephanie Bennett has the latest on that story for us. She is in London at this hour. Stephanie.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah, well, it was yet another night of heavy strikes on both sides of this war, and the images are pretty striking. Take a look. They just say it all. This year, Kyiv, of course, has stepped up its attacks, striking deeper inside Russia with long-range missiles and swarms of drones targeting military and energy facilities. Ukraine launched, like you said, one of its largest attacks on Russia today, killing at least 6 people. It's destroyed Wildberries warehouses, Russia's online retail giant, similar to Amazon, which you're seeing right there, burning billions of dollars worth of merchandise. But Kyiv accuses it of handling military goods. Russia's Ministry of Defense said it's destroyed 822 Ukrainian drones overnight. Some 600 were heading to Moscow. A third of those destroyed over the Moscow region itself, according to the mayor. An 83-year-old was killed in several homes, a railway station, and reports of a Russian rocket fuel plant were also damaged elsewhere. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Zelensky said at least 3 people were killed and more than a dozen others injured across Ukraine, hitting a steel plant. And in Kyiv, a Russian missile sparked a major fire at one of the city's largest book markets, leaving rows of stalls burned out and goods destroyed, ruining people's livelihoods.
The market has been completely destroyed. The entire market, from one end to the other. Not a single stall is left.
Yeah, and Ukrainian military sources told the Sunday Times today that British-made drones are now being used for Ukraine to strike into Russia. Back to you, Kevin.
Stephanie Bennett for us in London. Stephanie, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I'm really. I drank a coffee, so I'm like really.
Welcome back, everybody. The 60-day ceasefire agreement between the U.S. and Iran set to expire tomorrow as tensions remain high over the Strait of Hormuz, and the talks between Washington and Tehran remain uncertain at best. President Trump also warning Iran, saying he would hit back if attacked.
We're capable of really destroying the whole place. We don't want to do that. We have got economic sanctions against them like nobody's ever had before. We own, in the true sense, we own the Hormuz Strait. If they hit, we would hit back 100 times harder.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yanks live in Tel Aviv with the very latest. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey, Kevin, good afternoon. Monday will mark 60 days since the Memorandum of Understanding was signed between the United States and Iran, and technically it is set to expire. There are no reports of serious diplomatic progress to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and address Iran's nuclear ambitions. And this weekend, Iran continued attacks in the Strait. On Saturday, a bulk carrier reported being hit by an unknown projectile. A day prior, an Emirati oil vessel was also targeted. President Trump spoke on Friday about the conflict with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz.
After we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States. Essentially, that's what we have the blockade. No ships get through unless we want them to.
With a focus on Iran, we're also tracking the latest developments between Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah violated the ceasefire over the weekend, wounding 3 Israeli soldiers. This prompted Israel to launch a new round of strikes against targets in southern Lebanon.
Hezbollah committed 2 major violations today. They struck Israeli troops who were operating in the security zone in contravention of the ceasefire agreement. And then when Israel responded, they moved civilians inside their terrorist headquarters. They used their own civilians as human shields so that later on they could point at Israel and say that Israel is targeting civilians, which we are not doing.
Overnight, the IDF warned residents of northern Israel to be prepared for loud explosions throughout the night as operations against Hezbollah continued. Kevin?
Great trading for us, Trey. Be safe. Thank you as always. Appreciate your time today. For more on the U.S.-Iran ceasefire deadline, we want to welcome Kyron Skinner, Fox News contributor, to the program today. Kyron, it's always a pleasure to have your wisdom on this particular topic, and I think it goes without saying that most people feel like this really wasn't much of a ceasefire when you frankly consider the U.S. hit them, they hit some ships. Does it really mean anything to you that the ceasefire deadline is effectively over tomorrow?
It does mean something. The ceasefire broke down in the first instance because the Tehran government violated it with continual menacing of ships and any activity through the Strait of Hormuz. So it starts with them. And when President Trump caught up to what they were doing, he reimposed sanctions and economic sanctions, and he has declared he will even double down on those sanctions, making them much more restrictive than the IRGC and the government have ever seen. So it starts with a rogue regime that refuses to understand and support international conventions. What's at stake right now, when you think about it in this war, Kevin, is the fact that we have one nation that is violating a fundamental norm of the international system, and that is free, open, and safe navigation of the seas.
Right.
And it does not want
right.
that. Yes, and it does not want that to happen. And as a result, it is holding the world hostage. We're in a global hostage crisis. That's the way I've been putting it lately, due to one nation. It's impossible to negotiate with them until they understand the level of pain that can be inflicted on them. And that's what President Trump is prepared to do on the non-kinetic side with the new round of sanctions and really the new round of organizing of nations of goodwill against this government.
We've got about 45 seconds, but I did want to get you to weigh in on this. I liked how you put it, a global hostage crisis, and yet we would need global cooperation to really make a big difference, especially as the president continues to affect more economic pressure. But frankly, I think it goes without saying, it's not just China, it's not just Russia, it's some of the actors in Europe who say one thing out of one side of their mouth and then do something else to try to prop up the regime as well.
On the island of Flores, emergency workers rushed to get aid to communities in need after a powerful earthquake struck southeastern Indonesia on Saturday morning. Aid was also dispatched from the capital, tens of thousands of food packages for survivors.
Tents, food and other necessities are on the way. Tomorrow the tents and other supplies will arrive by cargo aircraft. We can replace these makeshift tents then.
Some say they're waiting for help to reach them.
We are camping under a tree. We need more tarpaulin sheets, drinking water, food and children's supplies.
In areas around East Nusa Tenggara province, medical staff treat the injured in tent hospitals.
I had just woken up. When the quake happened, my entire room started collapsing. I was trapped in my room. I covered my head, so my My legs and my body were.
Yeah, prayers for the people who live in Indonesia. Sucks at this earthquake. Sad, very sad. Yeah, it's so sad about the people of Indonesia. I'm gonna go use the restroom real fast. I have to go use the restroom. I drank this coffee and I'll be back. Hello, hello.
The Israeli military says it's deploying an additional battalion to the occupied West Bank after failing to force away Israeli settlers who've trapped 2 Palestinian families in their homes since Sunday. This follows clashes between Israeli security forces and Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank, as the Palestinians say their water and power has been cut off and that they're running out of food. Around a dozen Jewish settlers are thought to remain at the site south of Nablus. This live shot shows a view of the Palestinian houses besieged by the settlers in the village of Kusra. Settlements are illegal under international law. The US ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, has said that Washington has been very involved in efforts to end the siege and remove what he called Israeli terrorists. I want to speak to John Donaldson, who's in Kusra for us. So, John, what's been happening there this morning?
Well, let me give you an update of what's happened, because there's been quite a lot of development. So, up on the hillside behind me there, those houses are the houses that have been under siege by settlers since Sunday. But overnight, the Israeli army came in with bulldozers and they demolished the settler outpost, which in effect is a small encampment that they'd set up, and they dispersed the settlers. Now, we think the settlers have moved down the hillside, but every time they try and move back up, the army go and make them go back down. Now, as for the 2 families who are besieged in those houses, well, they have now moved into one of the houses, and we've spoken to them this morning, and they have been told us that they've been told by the army that they have a short time to pack up their things and leave. Meanwhile, down in the village of Kusra, 11 houses, people living there, have been told by the military to evacuate. They have now left, and we're hoping to go and speak to them shortly. We're not sure why they've been told to leave, but obviously they're pretty unhappy about it.
How significant is the intervention of the US ambassador and what he's had to say?
Well, look, the US ambassador, Mike Huckabee, his language was pretty strong, as you said, calling these terrorists who are doing this work. But the pressure that has been applied on the Israeli military, it does seem to work overnight. Something has been done.
Yeah,
but
it's very sad about
Mike Huckabee is a big supporter of the broader settler movement in the West Bank. And I guess his perspective is that this is just a few...
Yeah, just, man, some of these settlers in the West Bank are very, very insane. They're just crazy. They're just... I know. Just hopefully, it says the U.S. is condemning these Israeli settlers. It's very sad. Yeah, very sad.
100 hardcore extremists who are going too far. But all the while, just today in Jenin, which is a major city in the north of the West Bank, Palestinian city, a new settlement is opening and settlers are moving in there. And the settler settlement project, which is supported not only by the Israeli government but by the Americans, is progressing at a pace. So this is one incident where the authorities maybe say they've gone too far, but broadly the view is that amongst Palestinians and human rights groups is that the Israeli military, backed by right-wing members of the Israeli government, has allowed the settlers to act with impunity for too long. And interestingly today, as far as I know, I think there was only one arrest of a settler for those involved in this siege.
And the UN has been talking only this week about a record in violence linked to these settler incidents in the West Bank. So it is a broader problem that's been going on for a while.
yeah, I mean, it's been the most violent few years in the West Bank since records began, according to the United Nations. The world's attention has been perhaps elsewhere in the region, with Gaza, Lebanon, the war in Iran. But Palestinians will tell you that things are as bad as they've ever been in the West Bank. The United Nations says that on average, 6 attacks on Palestinian communities by Israeli settlers are happening every day this year. I think the figure is 18 Palestinians have been killed in settler violence this year, many more injured, and property damage. So it's not just physical violence, it's the burning and destruction of homes, it's the burning of farmland, livestock, burning olive groves, chopping down olive trees. So this is a problem that's been going on for a long time, but certainly the view of the United Nations is that it's as bad as it's ever been.
And what's the official line that's coming from Israel about what they want to do about this at the moment?
But still, it's still kind of bad.
Well, the Israeli government line is kind of the same as Mike Huckabee's. It's like these are a few bad apples, I suppose, who have taken things too far. So these outposts, as we call them, they're basically like temporary camps, often with porter cabins, caravans, tents. They are illegal, not only under international law, as all settlements are, but under Israeli law too. So sometimes the Israelis do dismantle them. But what often happens is you get these sort of temporary encampments, these outposts, and then suddenly you've got electricity and water being put in, and then there's actual legal planning permission from the Israelis to develop a settlement. So just at the moment, the Israelis are planning a huge settlement expansion right in the middle of the West Bank, just near Jerusalem, which is known as the E1 development. And the idea of that, Israeli ministers have boasted, is to, in effect, cut the West Bank in two and make a Palestinian state impossible.
John Donaldson, thank you very much indeed for giving us the detail on that story live in Kusra there on the West Bank. Thank you.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and the YouTube Music app all together. One subscription, 2 apps.
Israeli settler attacks in the occupied West Bank trap Palestinian families in their homes. The violence takes place as Israel's far-right government fights elections in October. Why are attacks by settlers intensifying, and what are the consequences? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Imran Khan. Approvals for illegal Israeli settlements have hit record levels under Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right government. So, has settler violence against Palestinians? And they have the protection of the Israeli state. Attacks and sieges on Palestinian homes often happen under the nose of Israeli police and military. Despite being illegal under international law, and at times even Israeli law, settlement building goes on with few restrictions. As the far-right government, which counts some settlers among its ministers, campaigns before October's elections, Palestinians live in fear of attacks meant to drive them from their land. So, can settler violence continue practically unchecked in full view of the world? What's driving the worsening situation? We'll speak to our guests shortly, but first, this report from Alexandra Byers.
High on this hilltop in the occupied West Bank, Israeli settlers have laid siege to homes in the village of Kusra, trapping Palestinian families. There are children inside. Kinda and Hur are both under the age of 5. The Israeli settlers cut water and electricity to the homes and attacked crews that came to fix it. And the families say they're running out of basic supplies.
We are only asking for our natural right to security and to live freely in our homes without fear or threat.
Siege tactics like this are illegal under international law. The U.S. ambassador to Israel has called the settlers Israeli terrorists, saying the actions are criminal, a horrific act of terror, disgusting and thuggish behavior. But despite international outcry, the Israeli military has merely looked on. Some even filmed praying with the settlers.
They are protected by the military. The military helps them. We saw them praying together, barbecuing together, and dancing together. They are not very interested in helping the besieged families.
Palestinian homes in the occupied West Bank are routinely targeted as part of a strategy to force people from their land. They use a combination of tactics, destroying livelihoods, carrying out attacks, and building illegal outposts, supported by the Israeli government and military. They're driven by ideology and religion. Some believe the occupied West Bank is land promised to them by God. And once Palestinian families abandon their homes, settlers move in permanently. That means if people trapped in Kusra leave, it would likely become another illegal settlement outpost. Over the past 3 years, Israel has accelerated its land grabs. There are now more than 550 illegal settlements and outposts across the occupied West Bank, with nearly 800,000 settlers living there by the end of last year. The UN has demanded Israel end its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territories. But the sieges and military raids have only been getting worse, with violence reaching all-time highs. It's a strategy that's at the heart of the current Israeli government's program and election campaign. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is behind in the polls, with an October election looming. Alexandra Byers, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Now let's bring in our guests from Revahot, Israel.
Yeah, sorry about that.
A politician and member of the Knesset representing the Hadash-Tal political alliance. From Montreal, Moin Rabani, co-editor of Jadaliyah online magazine and non-resident fellow at the Center for Conflict and Humanitarian Studies. And from Tel Aviv, Ori Goldberg, an Israeli political commentator. Thank you all for joining us. I want to start with Ori Goldberg first. In the last 20 years, every time I've tried to interview a settler or I've been to a settlement, I've been threatened, I've been attacked by dogs sometimes. You know, these are very, very protected settlements, even for a journalist. But the justification I always get for them being there is that this was land promised to us by God. Is it as simple as that?
No, it's not as simple as the fulfillment of a prophecy, although the biblical reasoning is always there for them to use. They actually have a very carefully prepared plan to take over the West Bank, to annex the West Bank and make it a part of Israel. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly where they're placing outposts. What they want is to sever and begin by obstruction, but ultimately they want to sever any potential for a Palestinian state and make the two-state solution completely irrelevant to the discussions by effectively disallowing any kind of Palestinian fabric of life in favor of Jewish settlements, which will ultimately become Israel.
Now, I want to go to Arthur Kassif next. You're a politician, a member of the Knesset. You represent the Hadash Ta'al political alliance. You have a voice, but no one seems to be hearing it. You're drowned out. Why is that?
I think that the voice is heard. The problem is that the Knesset, as many others, try to silence us and myself, but we don't allow them. That's the reason they're so furious at us. But our voice is heard. It must be heard more. Unfortunately, there is a massive consent, sometimes explicit, sometimes implicit, not only among politicians in the Knesset, but also in the media. It's very hard to find any kind of a crack to enter the news, for instance, and to raise our voice. We do use it otherwise, in other tools, whether by the social network or by talking to you and others. I had in the last few days after I had I successfully entered the houses and met the families that are still.
Hey, I'm gonna end the stream. I'm starting to get hungry, and I'm gonna end the stream. Cheers, everyone.